Hello and welcome to the Adobe Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Adobe. My name is Terry White, worldwide design and photography evangelist for Adobe, and it's my pleasure to stream live here on Twitch to you for the next couple of hours here on this beautiful Tuesday morning. For those of you who are watching this as a video on demand or a replay on YouTube, note that this is a live show that happens every Tuesday and Friday here on twitch.tv/Adobe. And because it is live, I will be addressing questions and comments in the chat from time to time. And of course, for those of you watching on other platforms such as YouTube, you can't see the questions. So therefore, if it's a question that that needs repeating, I will repeat it. Or if I remember to repeat it, I will repeat it and answer it to the best of my ability. So you'll hear me talk to people, you hear me chat with people, and you're saying, well, how do I get to be one of those people that he talks to and chats with? That's easy. Just on Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. till noon Eastern, or Friday mornings from 10 a.m. till noon Eastern, head over to twitch.tv/Adobe. And even if you just want to come into the Twitch channel and watch anything creative from anyone, it doesn't have to be me. The channel is live 7 days a week, about 17 to 24 hours a day, starting in the wee hours of the morning Pacific time to the late hours in the evening Pacific time. And therefore, there will be someone streaming something creative live every day. So first question up from John 52240. John, I'm always covering Apple and Android, or iOS and Android apps, if they're on both platforms. So for example, my last stream, part 2, we spent a great deal of time on Adobe Premiere Clip, which is available on iOS and Android. So I'll mention it if it is on both, or if it's not on both, which one it's on. So yes, the answer is, if the app is available on both platforms, I talk about it for both platforms. It's the same features. If not, then I can't, because it's not. So it just depends on the app. Every app's different. So just a quick recaps of the ones that are on Android. Off the top of my head, that would be Photoshop Mix. That would be Adobe Premiere Clip, the Behance app, the Creative Cloud app. I'm drawing a blank on some of the names of the other ones here. Let me bring up my iPad. Just off the top of my head, those are some of the ones that are on both platforms right off the bat. And let me bring up my list here. Lightroom, of course, on both. I believe Adobe Illustrator Draw is on both. And those are all the ones I can think of off the top of my head. But so, yes, there are some on both. There are some that aren't. All right, so, and Capture CC, thank you. That was the other good one. See, that's where the chat comes in handy. Thanks, Winder07. And Capture CC is a big one. So, again, this is part 3. We did part 1. We talked about Capture CC. We talked about Comp CC. I think those were the only 2. We talked a little bit about Lightroom. That was the first day, or first part. Second part, we talked about Premiere Clip, and we did Photoshop Fix. Part 3 is today, and we'll get into, I don't know, maybe we'll start with, Victoria says Draw is definitely on both. I don't know, maybe we'll start with that since I can't draw, it'll be quick. We can start with Adobe Illustrator Draw, since that is on both platforms, and then we'll go from there. So, with that said, this is how it works. The mobile apps, all of which, whether they're on iOS or iOS and Android, are all free to download. If they're on iOS, there's a good chance they're available for both iPhone and iPad. So it doesn't have to be like when they first came out, for the most part, all of them were iPad only apps. And then they migrated over to iPhone, and then they came over to Android. So Winter07 is Photoshop Fix available on both? No, it is not. So they're free, and in many cases, they can tie in. If you have a membership on Creative Cloud, they can tie into your assets. You can send things back to the desktop and open them up in the desktop applications. But even if you don't have a Creative Cloud membership, you can still use the apps free of charge. Like, for example, the Lightroom app's a perfect example of that, where I can bring my photos in. I can now on iOS and Android capture in RAW, DNG, and edit those pictures and share those pictures and organize those pictures all on my iOS devices or Android devices. So whether I'm a paid membership or have a paid membership to Creative Cloud or not, I can still use that app. Now, if I do have a paid membership, then that means one more thing, and that is I can sync images back and forth to the desktop version of Lightroom. So that's what the paid membership gets you. But if I didn't have a paid membership, I'd still be able to use Lightroom as is on iOS and Android. So it just depends on what you're trying to ultimately do. And I'm sure, Victoria, someone says there's a link listing all the Adobe mobile apps and what platform if you want it. And I think Victoria can, of course, post that link. I think it's something like bit.ly/Adobe Mobile Apps or something like that. But she'll post the link to the chat, and that will show you. Matter of fact, Victoria, if you post that link, I'll go ahead and bring it up on the screen so people can see it. I don't think I know it off the top of my head, but let me try it. I think it's bit.ly/Adobe Mobile Apps, or is it just mobile apps? Dun, 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 dun. Greetings from the north. All right, there is one. Mobile apps here. I don't know if this is the right URL, but there is one at bit.ly/Adobe Mobile Apps, but I'm not sure if that's the one we're thinking of. All right, she's posting the longer one, so let me go ahead and bring that one up. Adobe.com/creativecloud/catalog/mobile.html. But you normally put up a bit.ly that's shorter than that. All right, let's see if I have it here. Companion apps. All right, so let me bring up this so you guys can see it. So this is the link that Victoria just posted in the chat for those of you not watching on Twitch. It is adobe.com/creativecloud/catalog/mobile.html. And this is the one that lists all the apps. So if you're interested in apps that I don't get a chance to talk about and what their companion is to the desktop or companion is to other mobile apps, it will show you that. And I believe if you click on the app, it will probably tell you what, oh no, it just takes you right to it. I was hoping there was a list that would just show available on iOS or Android, but apparently it doesn't. I know we had a postcard that shows all that. But anyway, here are all the apps. Oh, wait, this is one for iOS and Android if you scroll all the way down. So let's see, the ones for Android, since someone asked. Oh, that just takes you to the store. Okay. That takes you to the, oh wait, is that just Creative Cloud? No. But if you go to the store, if you go to that link, then you can click on Adobe and it will show you all the ones that are available on Android. So there you go. It's a convoluted way to get there, but it does get you there. So Illustrator Draw, that was the one I had in question. That one is available. And Premiere Clip, which we just showed last time, we showed Capture. And we didn't show Mix yet. We didn't show the Creative Cloud app yet. But these are the ones available on the Google Play Store. There's Photoshop Mix. Okay. So that's how you can find out what's available and what platform it's available. Just head to that URL. And if you go to either respective app store and just click on Adobe, then you'll see the other apps that are available for your platform. With that said, let's close the browser window and let's go ahead and dive into, let me bring up my device here. I guess we'll do it this way. All right, so here's my iPad Pro. Now, the reason like I said, most of these apps are available on, if they're available on iOS, they're available on iPhone. The reason I'm showing them to you is that you can, um, the reason I'm showing it to you on iPad is because the iPad's bigger. So it's just a bigger screen, bigger experience. But absolutely, for example, when I showed Lightroom, the capture feature in Lightroom with the camera, I show that on iPhone because that is where I'm taking the photos most likely is with my iPhone camera. I don't usually shoot with my iPad camera. But for editing, for doing any type of creative work, I prefer to do it on the iPad just because, like I said, it's a bigger screen. This is an iPad Pro 12-inch or 12 point whatever inch. And of course I have the Apple Pencil, which we'll be grabbing right about now. Taking it off the charger. There we go. And putting its little cap back on that I haven't lost yet. There we go. And let's go ahead and dive into Illustrator Draw. Like I said, I am not an artist that draws. In other words, I don't draw, I don't paint, I don't sketch. So take this for what it's worth. But I will show you some of the features of Illustrator Draw, and those of you who are more creative than me will be able to take advantage of it. So let's go ahead and launch Illustrator Draw. Probably going to even ask me to sign in because it's been so long since I've used it. So let me go ahead and sign in. I'm just going to put the app in the background so we don't expose any data here, any bad things like usernames and passwords. All right, signing in while that's in the background. Yep, and let's put the password in now. Alrighty. Okay, now we'll switch back to it. Now that I'm all signed in. And you can see some of my non-drawing abilities here. These are some of the things I have attempted to do in Illustrator. No, I didn't draw that. That's actual photograph. But one of the things you can do is you can bring in a photograph like this and then trace on top of it. So that's more my speed. If you're an artist, like Victoria, who's in the chat here, if you're an artist, then that's when you get to really take advantage of this app because you know how to draw. You know how to draw from scratch. So like that flower, I think that's actually a capture. So that was like a capture shape that I brought in. And then squiggles, and then an egg that I drew, and then another capture, and then I drew my signature, and then you have what real people do. So if you head over to the community drawings, this is what can really be done with this app in the right hands. It's in the wrong hands right now, but if it were in the right hands of a person that really knows how to draw, all of these were drawn with Illustrator Draw, and it shows the potential of what this app can do. I am absolutely not going to do it justice. I'm not going to show what's really possible. But when you look at something like this and you say, wow, that's amazing, then you kind of know what can be done by the right person. All right, let's see here. So just amazing work done by people that have talent. Awesome, awesome work. And it goes on and on and on. And now this is linked to their Behance profiles. So if you tap on any one of these and you like the person's work, you can follow them on Behance. And I'm inspired every time I come in here to say, one day, I might learn how to actually draw something beyond stick figures. Okay, but anyway, you get the point. It is a great tool for people that actually have talent. And if you don't have talent, or at least you are not as good, then you might want to do something like this. Let's see if this is on the right later. Okay, so I brought in this photo, and you notice in the right-hand corner, there is an image layer. So the image layer, if I tap on it, see if I can double tap to hide it. I thought there was a, hang on for a second. Just want to check some of my settings here. It's been a while. Those are my layers. Undo. I thought I had the ability. There it is. Okay, I was trying to get to that. So just tap to lower the opacity. So if you lower the opacity, then that will, of course, kind of fade it into the background so that you have something nice to draw on. So instead of the image is on the image layer, which you can bring in any photo you want. And thanks, Jan. Yes, you do learn a lot by tracing. At least other people do. I don't. Or at least I'd love to. But anyway, so then you have your image layer, which I just lowered the opacity of it so it's kind of faint in the background. Maybe I lowered it a little too much. Let's bring it up a little bit more. There we go. And then you have your drawing layers, and you can continue to add as many drawing or image layers as you want. So if you question how'd you get that photo on the image layer, when you tap the plus sign, you can choose or designate whether the layer you're about to add is an image layer or a drawing layer. Now, obviously, for those of you who don't get it, the image layer is for photos that won't be a part of the final thing, and the drawing layers are for actual drawing. That's what will be a part of the final thing. So in this case, the drawing layer is there and ready for me to start drawing. Now, over on the left-hand side is where you have all your tools. So you have different brush types. And hang on, let me switch cameras here so you guys can see it a little bit better. Did that work? No, it didn't. There we go. And let's bring this down a little bit. There we go. All right. So we have the different tools on the left-hand side. So you've got your brushes, basic taper, basic flat, chisel, and in many cases, if that's not all you see, sometimes you can scroll up and see more, even if you don't see a scroll bar. Then you've got you've got more brushes. So it's basically what this is letting me do is choose some of the same brushes, but instead of having to go back and start scrolling up and down to find the one I want, I can dictate which one will stay on the left. So basic taper is on that one tool, and which one is this? Basic round is on that one. Then we've got basic flat there, and basic chisel there, and basic terminal there. And then you've got, get out of that, you've got an eraser. Now, if you go in and tap again, that's where you can get to the size of the brush. So I can make the brush bigger or smaller. That's where you can also get into the opacity of the brush. So right now the brush is going to be at 100% versus anything in between, all the way down to 1%. And you can also get to your color. So notice that it went straight to my last library. This is a library that we've been creating, we've been cultivating using the Capture app, bringing in color themes that we captured from various sources. Those colors are now fair game for me to start drawing or painting with. For the person that just came in and said, hey, I just got here, what app is this? This is Adobe Illustrator Draw, which is free of charge for iOS and Android. So I can also get into the settings for this particular brush. It is pressure sensitive, so I'm using an Apple Pencil, so it'll be 100% pressure sensitive. I can choose the roundness, the angle, the taper, the velocity, or reset the brush back to its factory defaults. Okay, so if I were to just come in and start drawing like so, or like tracing like so, then it will give me. Now, I held down a little bit more and got a thicker stroke along that. If I do it ever so slightly, then I'll get a thinner stroke around that. So the harder I hold down, that's the pressure sensitive part, the thicker my stroke will be. So I'm holding down really hard on that one. Let's undo versus holding down very lightly with the same brush. And I'm kind of balancing this with one hand and drawing with the other, so excuse my squiggly, not so perfect lines. Normally I would have this sitting down and not trying to balance it in my lap at the same time, but you get the idea. So having this pressure sensitive brush with a pressure sensitive stylus like the Apple Pencil makes it all the better. All right, so if I want to switch tools, let's say that I want to use the basic rounded one, but on the basic rounded one, I want to change, I want to keep it really small. Undo, and we'll change the color to that same color. So that one will not have the tapered edge. It's just going to be a basic round edge. All right. Okay, so then, for example, I could get into, let's try a different one here. Actually, no, let's try a different color. Let's try something, maybe, no. Let's try something more in that family. All right, and then go there. Now you can pretty much see why I won't be in that gallery anytime soon. But this is one of those things I never claimed to be good at drawing. As a matter of fact, I remind people on a regular basis that I'm not good at this. But even if you're not good, if you've got something to trace, you might be able to make something usable. And you'll get better, like anything else, just like being a musician or artist or anything else, photographer. The more you practice, the better you'll get. My problem is that I never take the time to practice. That's why I'll probably won't be good anytime soon. But if I were to take the time, especially with tools like this that are a little bit more forgiving than paper and pencil, then I might actually be able to do something decent at some point. So if we were to take down the opacity all the way, don't listen to my inner critic, that's what we'd have so far. So I can say, okay, I'm done with the drawing layer or the image layer, and I just want to continue drawing. Or I could bring that image layer back in and say, oh, well, hang on. Let me continue. I see a problem here. If I don't close that off, that kind of looks weird because no one will know that that was the top of a photo. So if I don't come down here and close some of these off, then they kind of look strange. Actually, that looks very strange. Let's choose a different brush for that. All right. So that's Illustrator Draw in a nutshell. Now, once you've done your drawing, what can you do with it after the fact? So once I'm finished with this, let's say I'm going to be finished very quickly here. What's my end game? In other words, what are my choices? after I finish squiggling like I'm doing now. Well, the thing about Illustrator Draw, as the name implies, just like Illustrator on the desktop, everything I'm doing here is vector. That's the beauty of it. So if you don't have something perfect and you want to perfect it on the desktop in Illustrator, as a Creative Cloud member, you can. If you just want to play around with the free app and you're not a Creative Cloud member, no problem. You can now take this whenever you're ready and share it. Copy the image to, let's back up. Share it meaning most of the choices I see there are if I were a Creative Cloud member, like copying it to my Creative Cloud folder, sending it to Illustrator on the desktop, sending it to Photoshop on the desktop, or copying it to the clipboard. Or if I tap the share icon at the very bottom, then that just brings up the standard OS sharing sheet, and then that lets me go ahead and share it or save it to the camera roll, or I could send it to Victoria's iPad. All right, so with that said, let's continue. And all right, so now let's say I'm done. Let's turn that down. And it's okay. I want to do more with it. So I'll go back to my sharing options and I can say send to Illustrator on the desktop. What that will do is make this an Illustrator. This will make this an Illustrator compatible file. Sync it with Creative Cloud, and then once it syncs with Creative Cloud in the cloud, and then syncs back down to my desktop, like it just sent it now. So once my desktop syncs it, as I can see happening, which you can't see, but now you see it. Actual Illustrator's launching. So I didn't touch Illustrator. I'm still holding my iPad and the Apple Pencil, but Illustrator just opened and is now opening up that vector file for me to continue working. So if I were out and about, sketching in the park or sketching somewhere on a train or somewhere else, friend's house, whatever, when I get back to my desk, this would be open and ready for me to continue working. So for example, if I see something that I just couldn't get right on mobile, like I just don't like that stroke, then get rid of it. If I see something I want to change the color of, pick a different color for that, then pick a different, pick a different color for it. So I can choose or fix or change or do anything that I want to do. So a couple questions. Apple Pencil, yes, Apple Pencil, which is compatible with the iPad Pro 9.7 inch and 12 inch. What was the run workflow option at the very bottom? That was a different app. So that's it's like a macro app where you can trigger multiple things to happen. It's an app on the App Store called Workflow. Can you include the background image? That's a Victoria question. I don't think so, because I think the whole point of the background image was to just trace on. She said all of your layers will be in Illustrator, so let's see. I turn that layer down. Is that layer really there? Oh yeah, it is there. All right, so she's right, which I knew she would be. I knew that'd be a Victoria question. So that layer that I turned down is there. There's my image layer. I don't know if it's just an opacity thing here. Let's see. Interesting. I don't know how, well, hang on, let's turn this one off. It's there, but because I lowered the opacity of it, I don't know why it's not, because it's not saying that it's zero opacity here, but yes, it is there. Your image layer is there. I just don't know how, how I would expose it at this point, since I lowered the opacity in Illustrator Draw. But yes, it did bring it over. So I was wrong. It's below a white layer. Is that what you're saying? Let's see. I don't think so. Let's turn that one off then. No, I don't think so. Let me check. Oh, there it is. There's the opacity I was looking for. Okay. So we bring that opacity up. There's your image. Okay. So it is there. And the opacity was 0, just like I left it in Illustrator Draw. It's big. It's not below a white layer. It's just buried in a layer group. And that layer group was set to 0, which now once I bring that up, that exposes the image. So yes, it did bring over the entire image with it. So all your, okay, that's answering the question. Yes, all of your strokes are separate and editables. So just like I deleted one at the bottom, there's a stroke there. So if I want to tweak it or move it or do whatever I want to do with it, I can. Everything is there as it was drawn. So that's why Illustrator Draw is best sent to Illustrator if you want to continue working with it. Although you can send it to Photoshop too. You get the best of all worlds by working with it here in Illustrator. So for example, if I didn't like the color of that, change the color to a different color, change the color using Creative Cloud libraries, change the color using anything I want, put something else inside of it, do whatever I want to do, delete it, change it, tweak it, reshape it, whatever. So that's Illustrator Draw. And let me show you one more thing. I'm going to show you one more kind of, maybe you're not a freeform artist like I'm not a freeform artist, but another way to use it in a way that will make it a little bit easier for you. And this is a way, because there used to be a whole separate app for this, and the features of that separate app, which I'll tell you about in a second, got brought over into Illustrator Draw and brought over into Photoshop Sketch, which we haven't seen yet. So let me pop back over to the iPad for a second. Let me close this. Close. There we go. And let's go over and let's make a new one. All right, so we're making a new blank project. And as you can see, it starts off with just a draw layer. Now, if you want an image layer to trace on, just bring in an image layer, put that down, then you can do whatever you want. All right, the background truly made it dynamic. True. I mean, yeah, if you're trying to create art where maybe that is your point, where you want to take a photograph, but put some vectors on top of it and make it dynamic, then Eunice, you have a good point. But anyway, this is for everyone else. This is for the people who say, well, I'm not really an artist. I'm never going to really draw by hand, but I may need to create some vector art. Can you help me out with just some basic shapes? Because in Illustrator, you'd have an ellipse tool, you'll have a rectangle tool, you'll have shape tools. I can actually create things in Illustrator because of those tools, because I have those basic shapes to start creating things with, even though I'm probably not the person that's ever going to really draw by hand from scratch. So you'll notice at the very top of Illustrator Draw, in between the undo button and the layers button, there's this shape button. And voila, you've got shapes. So for example, if I go to, I'm not even going to get down to those just yet. If I go to the circle, then that will give me this circle, which I can pinch and zoom to make it bigger or smaller. And I can now take one of my brushes and either double tap or trace around it. And notice what it's doing. It's not letting me do a crooked or bad circle. It's letting me trace around it as much as I want. Or I could have just double tapped instead of having to draw all the way around it. Then I can pick that up and move it around and say, oh, yeah, you know what? I want another one of those. Maybe I want one over here that's halfway around. And I can pick it up again and I can say, make it smaller. And let's put another one up here. And we'll just double tap and make it a complete circle. So Art Slina, this is Adobe Illustrator Draw for iOS and Android. So these basic shapes allow me to create shapes that I might want to do. So let me undo this for a second. Let me undo all of this. There we go. And let's start again. Let's pick this up and let's double tap to get my perfect circle there. Then we'll make it smaller and we'll come maybe right there. And this time I don't want to double tap. Oh, hang on. I don't want to reshape it either. Stop that. All right, let me put my circle back down. No, no, no. I don't want to reshape you. Stop, stop. There we go. Perfect shape. There we go. And yes, you too can make a Mickey Mouse. Let's put the ear right where it goes. This is what I mean. I can't draw really very well from scratch, but I can use the heck out of shapes. All right, so there we go from there. And let's tweak that down just a little bit more. Oh, get rid of that first. Undo. All right, there we go. Kind of screwed it up on the end there. But anyway, you get the idea. Now let's go back to the shapes. So it's obvious you've got a square, you've got a triangle. That means you can, of course, use either one of those. But notice the double lines. This is one of the coolest things. And now I'll talk about that app that used to exist called Adobe Line. There was a separate app for doing just line drawings, line illustrations. For people that were trying to draw maybe architectural shapes or plans or things like that. They could use Adobe Line to do it. The reality was Adobe Line wasn't enough to really be a separate app, so they just rolled all the line features into the other apps like Illustrator Draw. It didn't make sense to have Illustrator Draw and Illustrator Line because there wasn't enough of a distinction between them. But let's go ahead and grab the double lines. Now this is one of the coolest tools, and this used to actually be a part of Ink and Slide, a piece of hardware. So notice I can pick this up, I can twist it around, it even gives me the degree, and basically this is like a digital ruler. So now this is here, I can draw perfectly straight lines where I need them to be. So for people that are tasked to do logos and things like that, and you say, well, you know, I'm not really an artist, but I can draw the heck out of something with shapes, then this might, if I'd looked at the angle, I would have had it just right. This might be your way to get to get that task done. All right, so again, hang on, undo that last one. This is using the digital equivalent of Slide. We used to have Ink, which was the Adobe Stylus, and Slide was the digital ruler. And they had digital Slide back in the day, and this is the equivalent of digital Slide inside of Adobe Illustrator Draw. All right, get rid of that. Now, although I like the circles and I like the ruler for Slide, or the ruler for Illustrator Draw, one of the things I really, really like, how much does Illustrator Draw cost? It's free. Go download it. It's a free app. Yes, I'm designing logos. This is so helpful. I can do perfect lines. Yes. $0 US. Good point, Jan. It is absolutely free. Now this one blew me away, and this again goes back to the Illustrator Line days. This is how I used to show Illustrator Line. French curves. You grab a French curve tool, and again, I can pick it up, pinch and zoom it, get it any size I want it to be, and then just put it where I need it and draw perfect French curves around, I kind of screwed that up, around an area there. All right, so pick that one up, and that leaves my perfect French curve behind. Now, I can get rid of that one and go get the other one that's going the other way. There we go. There we go. Oh, hang on, undo. It thinks I'm drawing when I'm not. Let's make that a little bigger. Now, I'm not getting the angles perfectly right, but you get the idea. And then we just start there and come around and go to there. All right. And then we just move that out of the way. So it's really, really, really amazing what you can do with, I was talking about them, Ink and Slide. So Ink and Slide were the physical tools, the drawing tools. I've got a box in the closet. If I stand up and go grab it, I can show it to you. But Ink and Slide were the physical drawing tools that Adobe sold back in the iPad 2 days. Unfortunately, those tools aren't compatible with the newer iPads, but that's what they were for. So Slide would give you a physical ruler that you would sit on top of your iPad, and it would project the lines like I'm doing now for you to draw. All right, so this is pretty cool. And see, I never thought I would be showing people something that they thought was cool when it comes to drawing. All right, but anyway, now, for example, I didn't talk about the eraser yet, but I see where that line's not quite, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. See where that line's quite not, or too tall, so I can erase, even though it's vector, I can erase part of a line. And then cap it back off again. And then erase that little edge, or undo the cap and put it back again. Oh, what did I do there? Oh, I'm getting some paint errors there. I never saw that icon before. But anyway, I had it better last time. But you get the idea. So let's go in and let's look at one more. Now, again, all basic shapes, polygons, triangles, French curves going in all different directions, resize, trace around them, use any color you want, use anything you want. Downloaded it, great. But look, it gets better. You've got comics, you've got people, you've got other things. Now, for example, if I put a person there, let's put the little guy there. And as a matter of fact, I kind of like him right where he is. If I don't want to trace all the way around, and remember, with any of these shapes, if you just double tap to stamp it, yes. That will just put it there. It'll put it down. So you don't have to take your time drawing all the way around something if you know you want the whole thing. Just double tap on it, and that will set it down. Someone said comic bubble shapes. There's the comic bubble, and we can put that up here, and we can say, what's Mickey thinking? And then if I want the whole thing, I don't want to spend time having to draw all the way around it, just double tap, and it will just put it down. Then I can move it around and put it on the next person and double tap and start putting in my conversation. All right, and of course, if you wanted it bigger or smaller, do that first before you double tap, because once you double tap, that particular drawing or that particular line is there, and now you'd have to undo it and redo it again. All right, so that I just wanted to point out these shapes are here for people like me that say, oh, and by the way, it gets really fun when you scroll. There's a whole family of shapes. Let's make them bigger. And I'm not sure why the girl has no shoes on, but there she is with no shoes. All right, so you get the idea. This is Illustrator Draw. Can you increase the line weight? Absolutely. So the question was, can you increase the line weight? Just tap on the brush you're using and change the size. So if I want a nice thick line for my next shape, I'll just increase the size of it first. And now when I double tap, I got a nice thick line for it. Sorry about that. Airport utility has to drop in at least once on my streams. So yeah, absolutely you can make a thicker shape just by increasing your size of your brush. And I have my brush smaller because I wanted it smaller. And same thing with color. If I wanted those to be different colors, they don't all have to be one color or dark or black. They could be whatever color I want. So for example, let's use a lighter color there. And now if I go in, same thing, and we'll make it smaller this time and double tap. Now it's the light blue line. So it's totally up to you for the girl has no shoes. Okay, I'm not going to read all these comments, but anyway, very expensive shoes. I guess you can draw her some shoes, so that's your task. And the boy has no shoes either. So the parents have shoes, the little girl and little boy don't. Let's hope they're on a beach somewhere or headed to the beach, and that's why. Click the guy again. Click on the guy again after he's outlined. No, because at that point, now it's just a vector shape. So once you drop down one of these shapes, just like if you drew a line, that line is just there. I don't think you, yeah. So like if I tap now, I'm drawing more. So it's just like putting paint down on a canvas. You don't pick the paint up and move it around. However, and I don't think there is a way. Yeah, so for example, this is why we work in layers. So let me undo some of this. Let me undo. Get back to the family. If I wanted to be able to pick the family up and move it around, put the family on a different layer, because Illustrator Draw has multiple layers. So now if I put the family on a different layer, and I go back to the family here, we go. And we'll put them back up there again. And we'll double tap, and now they're blue, because that was the last color and pen I used. Now they're on a different layer, and now theoretically they could be moved around because they're not on the same layer as everything else. And I know Illustrator Draw keeps adding more and more layer capabilities, meaning more layers you can have. Victoria, what's the maximum number of layers? I think it's at least 20, if not more. So if I want to, hang on, if I want to transform a layer, there we go, transform, then I can pick that layer up now. I can now move them around, size them, do whatever I want. So if you separate them out as a separate layer, then you're going to be more free to do more things than had you drawn everything on the same layer, which you will probably regret, because then you won't be able to do things like that. 20 layers. Okay, I was right. Yay, 20 layers. Oh, and you can change it in AI when you swap it over to the desktop. Yes, you can. But if you never send it to the desktop, a lot of these things you might want to be able to do while you're here on mobile. Okay, good point. She gave the shoes to someone sitting on the sidewalk that have no shoes. You guys are very concerned about this Illustrator. This illustrations not have this Illustrator shape not having shoes. I'm new to the stream. What are you making? Also, how's it going? It's going good. I am not making anything in particular. I'm showing mobile apps. So I'm showing at this point, we're just about to wrap up, Illustrator Draw, which is a free app for iOS and Android. All right. Let's see if there's anything else. Well, Illustrator is open in the background, not Photoshop. See AI at the top left corner? So if you are getting confused about this app, this is an app called Adobe Illustrator Draw. Illustrator is open in the background because earlier in the stream I sent my first drawing over to Illustrator, and I can continue working on it in Illustrator. So recap real quick, this is a free app available for iOS and Android. You can use it independently of having a Creative Cloud membership or not. If you have a Creative Cloud membership and you have the desktop apps, then you get the extra benefit of being able to send your drawing at any point over to the desktop to continue working on it. If you don't have a Creative Cloud membership and you just want to use this for free on iOS or Android, then your options are to share it using your iOS or Android sharing options, saving it to your camera roll, sending it as a text message, doing whatever you want to do with it from that point for free. So it's totally up to you. So the last thing I did last time, for those of you who just got here, was since I am a Creative Cloud member, I have these options of, for example, sending to Illustrator. What that is now doing is making this into an Illustrator compatible file, syncing it to Creative Cloud in the cloud, and then it just opened just now. I don't know why it always opens in the lower corner there, but it just opened with all the layers intact, ready to go, ready to continue working on this in Illustrator, all of these being separate paths that are now ready to continue working on. So if we want to give her shoes, there she is. We can now, someone more talented could draw her some shoes. So that's how Illustrator Draw works. So we haven't done anything in Photoshop yet. This is all Illustrator related. Now, Can I send it to Photoshop? Let's say I don't want to continue working on it, but I want to use it in Photoshop for some reason. Let's see what happens when you send an Illustrator Draw object over to Photoshop. You can do it. So just like I said, send to Illustrator. Right below Illustrator, send to Photoshop CC. So now this is making this into a Photoshop compatible file. And there, it opens up as a single transparent layer in Photoshop for you to do whatever you want to do with. So it is not a vector shape in Photoshop. It doesn't take on any vector characteristics. It's just pixels now on a one single transparent layer in Photoshop. So the clear advantage, send it to Illustrator where you get everything. You get your you get all your vectors, you get your colors, you get the ability, you get all your vector shapes, you get all the abilities to change it. And then if you want to copy that or put it in a Creative Cloud library and bring it over to Photoshop, that would be the recommended workflow. Because what this is doing right now is just, unless this is all I want it, it's too limited. And I don't even know what resolution it sends that over at. Let's check. Image size. It sends over a decent resolution, but if I bring it over from Illustrator, then it's resolution independent. I can make it whatever size I need it to be at whatever resolution I need it to be. So I'm not sure why, yes, I do work for Adobe. Yes, I'm not sure why you would send it to Photoshop unless it's just something down and dirty. You just drew something real quick, you want it in Photoshop, and then you would send it to Photoshop. But from an Illustrator Draw perspective, you've got way more benefit of sending it over to Illustrator first. And then, like, for example, if I now want to take this into Photoshop, what I would do is if I wanted all of it, just select all. If I don't want all of it, then I can select the individual pieces I want. And I would now, for example, go to my Creative Cloud libraries. And if we go to our Twitch library, which we've been working on all this time, and we add this, now that becomes a new shape in, or a new vector thing inside of my library. So if I select these, same thing, I can add those to a Creative Cloud library, and now those are in the Creative Cloud library. So if I want to, I don't know why it filled that in at the top, even though it's not filled in here. But anyway, if I now want to bring those into Photoshop, I have a much better story because when I go to Photoshop with that same library, which we'll wait for the library panel to open, and we'll switch to the Twitch library, and we'll scroll down. And those are my objects. Now when I bring them over, they'll be at the resolution of whatever it is I'm working on, as opposed to this fixed resolution that came over from Illustrator Draw. All right. That would be the workflow for Illustrator. All right, so I spent way more time on Illustrator Draw than I ever thought I would. I thought that was going to be like a 5-minute thing, but I'm glad you guys got something out of it. And I'm glad I remembered to show the drawing shapes, because I think that for people that aren't artists, but still need to draw things from time to time or need vector illustrations from time to time, I think that's the power of this app, is that I can use those shapes. So Victoria, this would not work in CS6. No, it would not send it over to Photoshop, or well, it would not send it over to CS6 because there's no Creative Cloud to send it over with. Yeah, so this will only work with the CC desktop apps, not the CS6 desktop apps, because you wouldn't have a Creative Cloud to sync it with. All right. All right, moving along. Let's get out of this. So if it was painful to watch me draw in Illustrator, it's going to be equally painful to see what I'm going to do next. Let's get out of Illustrator Draw. And let's go to now Photoshop Sketch. So think of Photoshop Sketch as the pixel version of Illustrator Draw. It's for people that paint or people that want to use a more painting effect on their work as opposed to vector lines. Now, as far as I remember, Illustrator or Photoshop Sketch right now is still iOS only. So Illustrator Draw was iOS and Android free app. Photoshop Sketch, free app for iOS. All right, so if I bring up Photoshop Sketch, you can see some of my basic work that I've done before. Let's go in here. Let's keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Those aren't mine. I wish they were, but they're not. That's mine. I did do that from a photograph. I don't know. I don't think that's mine. I can't remember. And of course, here's what people can really do. So this is the community sketches, just like we had the community Illustrator Draw work. I'm not sure why the rest aren't loading. Could be my internet connection. But anyway, if you go there, you want to get some inspiration about what people have done and can do. This is one way to go look at other people's work. So if I tap on this, will it load? Oh, there it is. Okay, it's just not loading the thumbnails. So look at the detail in that. That's someone who took Sketch and drew in Sketch. Victoria, who's our moderator there, is a Sketch expert. She draws in it on a daily basis. I am not worthy, meaning I shouldn't even be showing this app in front of you. I should bring her on to show it. But Victoria, go ahead and put your website in the chat so people can go check out your work. And I'll bring up your website too so people can really see what you do with this app as well. Hang on here, let's go to pavlovphotography.com and we'll join your newsletter later. How about that? So if we go to digital painting, this is her digital paint. Oh, mobile art. That's what I want. So digital painting was done in Photoshop. These are things that she's done in both Illustrator Draw and Photoshop Sketch. Ooh, very nice slideshows there. So Illustrator Draw on the right, Photoshop Sketch on the left. Things that she has done on the iPad from scratch. She's not tracing photos. She might have a reference photo that she's looking at, but she's not doing what I was doing. It's not a layer where she's tracing on top of it. These are all drawn by hand from scratch. So that's what I mean by, if you look at her Illustrator Draw work, it just makes me think, you should never open that app again, Terry. This is not good. But she has done all of this work at pavlovphotography.com, and she does video tutorials on a regular basis on her YouTube channel. And she will be my guest, whether she likes it or not. She will be my guest in one of these streams. I was trying to get her to come on today, but she didn't want to. But anyway, she's the one that really should be showing this next app because she's really good at it. All right, so let's head back over to my feeble attempt to show you this. And I'm going to go ahead and just tap the plus sign on the left-hand side. And we get an interface that's almost identical to Illustrator Draw. So again, for those of you who are like trying to keep up, we switched apps now. We went from Illustrator Draw, free app for iOS and Android, over to Photoshop Sketch, free app for iOS, not on Android at this point. We told it to give us a new document, blank canvas, looks almost identical. Tools on the left-hand side, layers on the right-hand side, options in the top right. For those that want to work with shapes, the same shapes are there. Now you would be painting them. They wouldn't be vector, so they'd be pixel-based, but you get the same shape capabilities. You also get layers, so you can add an image layer or a sketch layer. So notice it says sketch, not drawing. And so if you know how to use one, you know how to use both of them. They're almost identically the same. Now, one of the big differences here is that when you go over to your tools and you switch to your brushes there, and I tap and I hold down, there's one difference. When I held down on the tool, I get all the options that we would think. But notice in the upper right-hand corner, it says Twitch, which means that's a library. That's a Creative Cloud library. These are brushes that I created with Capture CC. So on the first part one of this stream of mobile apps, remember we made that brush at the very top, brush number 5 of Justina, and we were playing around. We gave her a little long torso and the legs and the arms at the top. And I said, make it a Photoshop Sketch brush. This is where it comes in. I can now use this brush. I also have a Terry White brush. And I should have a Rufus. Oh, it's in a different library. I have a Rufus brush as well. So if I tap on that brush we created on last Tuesday, then that becomes a tool that I can use in Photoshop Sketch. So I can make her as tall or as short or as sideways or as squiggly as I want her to be. And yes, it's free. Yes, it's free. Every app I'm showing you is free. You don't have to keep asking. They're all free. Be right back. Downloading right this minute. Okay, cool. So that was just, again, playing around. Now, I want to show you a gesture I didn't show you last time. I've been tapping the undo in the upper right-hand corner, but if you put down, I think it's 3 fingers, you have a 3-finger scroll back in time history. So I can scroll forward in time with 3 fingers or scroll back in time. That's my history timeline at the top there, which is kind of cool to be able to do this with a gesture like this. If you've gone too far, like I did, and you want to go back and say, okay, let's get back to something that looks a little bit normal, maybe that, then you can. All right, so, okay, so 3-finger history in both of these apps. What else? Now, honestly, for me, the coolest thing in Photoshop Sketch is something that got added last year, and it's watercolor. I don't know why, it just takes me back to maybe my elementary school days, but I love the watercolor feature. If I were going to draw with shapes, honestly, I would go over to Illustrator Draw and just draw with shapes. I don't need pixel-based shapes. I would want vector shapes. So the shapes are awesome, but I would do those in Illustrator. What I would do in Sketch are the quick, paintery kind of things that would take me too long to do in Photoshop. Like it would take me too long to figure out how to get it to look the way I want it to look. Whereas if I do it here and send it over to Photoshop, then I'm there. I've got it. I've got what I want. So what I would do is switch to this last brush. And this last brush, which I can pick a color. Well, let's go here. Actually, there we go. You notice at the very bottom, I got 2 watercolor brushes. I've got a watercolor round brush and the one I'm on, which is a watercolor flat brush. So I'm going to set my bottom 2 brushes to be both of those watercolor brushes. If it will let me. I don't know if it'll let me. It may not let me. I may only get one watercolor brush at a time. Okay, yeah, I'm only going to get one watercolor brush at a time, but look at all the other cool brushes you can do. So I kind of like the spray brush. That's kind of sweet. All right, let's go here. And I'm just setting up my brushes here. Which one are we on? We're on the ink pen, and the other one must be the graphite pencil. Yeah, the graphite pencil. Okay, let me show you what they all do. Oh, what's this middle one we did? I know we set that as a... Let's go back to the app brushes. Oh, that one I can do. Okay, so I've got now 2 watercolor brushes and all the other standard sketch brushes. So let me show you a little bit about what each one does, then we'll go back and show you my favorite, which is watercolor. So let's start at the top. This one is the graphite pencil. And of course, you can tap to choose whatever size you want. So if I change the size, then I get that, which is very nice. So if you, again, this is for people that, if you're trying to create some look, some logo, something that's easier for you to do on a mobile device with your finger or with a stylus, and you don't have a Cintiq or you don't have a graphics tablet, which you should have a graphics tablet at least, then this might be easier for you to do with an app like this. So that's the graphite pencil in a nice thick form. Let's make it smaller and get these kind of, I would use this probably for hair if I knew how to draw or paint someone. I'd use it for hair, but you get the idea. All right, so next one was this one, which is the ink pen. So all of these, and by the way, I've just left them on the default colors that I had them on last time. You can change the color for any of these. If I want to tap again, I can, of course, control the size. Oops, I always do it before I do it. There we go. So this one doesn't get very big. This one only goes to 10 points all the way down to 1.5. So this is not designed to be a thick marker. This is designed to be a pencil. All right, but you get the idea? And this is kind of cool when you want to just sign your name. So if you need to create a digital signature with your name, that's one way to do it. All right. And this one, I'm going to skip that one for now. I think that's my watercolor one. Let's go to this one. All right, you can kind of see again, if I tap again and control the size, ooh, that one gets really big. That's kind of cool. Now, same problem. I wasn't paying attention to layers. So if I now say, oh, well, I kind of want to do something, maybe move that over, too late. I did all this on the same layer. So let's back up a little bit. And let's add a new layer. And add another new layer. We can have as many new layers, not as many as we want, but there's a limit. We can have more new layers, and that way we can target each layer that we want to put a different kind of thing on. So if I want to now put that on a layer by itself, and then I can, and I believe I can also switch the layer order around. So I can say, you know what, that should be on the bottom of that, not on top, just like you would in Photoshop. If I want to tap, I can transform that layer now and make it smaller and bring it over. Can I rotate it? I can flip it, but I can't rotate it. That kind of sucks. All right, I'll move that over there. Maybe something like that. All right, done. And talked about layers. Let's go back. And of course you have an eraser. So I'm on that layer, so it won't erase anything that's not on that layer. So I encourage you, if you're going to do this, you definitely want to work in layers for this. You can also rename each layer. Thanks for letting me know that, Victoria. Tap to rename. There we go. We'll call it orange. Orange spelled right. There we go. Orange. Done. I did not know you could rename them. All right, so that makes sense. Orange layer. And with a bad eraser, but you get the idea. Let's undo. And let's redo that last one. There we go. 3-finger history. Okay. Now, I left off 2 brushes, my favorites, the watercolor ones. So let's do this. Let's go back in time, all the way back to the beginning, all the way back to the one layer. And now I have a table set up over here with some various still life fruit on it that I used in my last live stream on Facebook for capturing with Lightroom. So I'm going to attempt to draw something. Bear with me. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with this first sketch layer. It's going to be kind of my background, kind of the table. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on my nice big watercolor brush. I'm going to pick a different color for it. This needs to be more in the tan family, something like that. And I'm just going to go ahead and at the very bottom just create my bottom layer. Now, this is watercolor in Photoshop Sketch stays wet. That's what I love about it. You notice that when I went to a watercolor brush, well, here, I'll just show you. So let me just go ahead and start drawing this or painting this table at the bottom. All right, that's going to be my table. Now, if you continue to look at it, Look at the brown spot on the right. See how it's continuing to expand? The same thing on the left? Because it's wet. It's the digital equivalent of wet paint. On the bottom of the tool panel, whenever I'm using one of these watercolor brushes, if I now want to dry it at any point, because it will stay wet forever unless you tap the fan to dry it. So I just dried it in place. So now it won't continue to expand. That's it. It's dry. I love that. That just freaks me out because that's so freaking cool. Oh, you couldn't see it because of the corner, or probably because of me. All right, see that fan behind my head there? That fan is that fan icon at the bottom is what you tap on. All right, does that mean we can draw in these apps with regular pen and fingers? You can draw in these apps with any compatible stylus you have for your device and your fingers. So I don't want to say regular pen because the regular pen won't work on your iPad screen. But yeah, your fingers will work just fine. Because you wouldn't use a regular pen to draw with on your iPad. So anyway, but that was the icon down there at the bottom that I tapped on. And it's the one behind my head. All right. As a matter of fact, I can move that and get that out of the way at least. Let me move this over a little bit. There we go. Okay. So you can see the fan icon now. All right. That's witchcraft, I tell you. I know. All right, so here, let me see what I can do with, we'll try one of the leaves first. I'm a little scared to try and draw the fruit first. So we'll go to this one. I want to change the color. And we're going to make this something in the green family. Something maybe like that. And now this is the round tip water brush. So it still has the fan icon on my wizard. Still has the fan icon on the lower left-hand corner. So if I start drawing with this, and again, I'm just freehanding it here. I'm not by any means good at this, but if we get the idea here, let's try this. Oh, layer. So I want that on its own layer so I can do whatever I want to do with it. So I almost screwed up. Layer. Already messed up. Hang on. Okay, I think I got the idea. All right, there we go. Now, this is still water paint, or watercolor, I should say. And we're going to switch it up in just a second here. I'm just going to get all the green filled in. Yes, I can make the brush bigger, but too late now. I'm almost finished. Now, imagine, if you will, if that were a leaf. I know it doesn't look like one now, but imagine if that were an actual leaf. I think I know what would make it more look. Now, look what the green's doing. The green's kind of still mixing and expanding. It will continue to do that forever until I tap the fan icon to say stop, freeze it in time, dry it. Fan just dried it. Now, what I want to do, color. This leaf has little light veins going through it, so let's pick something like that. And let's pick a smaller size. And let's draw one right up the middle. Something like that. This is about to get a whole lot more leafy now. There we go. How about that? That might convince you that it's a leaf at some point, right? Maybe, maybe not. Say yes. Please say yes. this one's better. Undo. All right. There we go. All right, my first leaf ever. I'm using Adobe Photoshop Sketch. That leaf is the new. All right, so we have it. Oh, you know what? I know what would make my leaf look better too. It's too late. Hang on, it might not be too late. Oh, I don't remember what color I used. Does it do the same thing? No, it doesn't. All right, one of the things I liked about oh, maybe it wasn't. Hold on, maybe I'm thinking of something else. Never mind. Never mind. I was going to say something else, but it's really not the case. Was I on the community themes earlier? Maybe I was. It's kind of a dark, yeah, it was that green. There we go. Make it a little jagged around the edge there. I'm spending way too much time on this. But that's the thing about a sketch app like this, you just want to keep playing. All right, anyway, that's my leaf, and it needs one more thing to make it more leafy. And we'll make the size of the brush a little bigger. There we go. All right, that's my leaf. Okay, new layer, stop, new layer, sketch. And this is where it's going to get interesting. All right, let's try this. We need a new color. I'm just using the community themes. These are the colors that are built in versus the colors in my library. This kind of covers the spectrum. Just looking for the right color here. Maybe something like that. And the watercolor feature, follow you on my phone. Oh, you found the watercolor feature. Okay, the watercolor feature has a bleeding effect to it until you press the fan. Because right now that green is still bleeding, and it'll continue to bleed. The one I did around the edge, because I didn't press the fan. It'll continue to stay wet. If I press the fan, oh, too late. I press the fan. I wonder if it does stop once you start changing options. So anyway, once you press the fan, that does lock it in, and it says, okay, freeze this, don't continue to blend. All right, so let me try this now. Try pear shape here. What? Oh my God, I actually did something that kind of looks like I almost wanted it to look. Okay. Just change the brush size. We'll go ahead and fill this in. And I know I'm painting over the lines. That's okay. I paint outside the lines. I'm a rebel. You too can do this with zero practice. All right, let's do this now. And okay, so see what is doing all that bleeding? Fan, freeze it. Don't bleed anymore. That's enough. I should have hit it sooner actually. Now I want to go in and change the color once again. And we'll change the size to be a little smaller. Now I want to try something first. Hang on. All right, undo. A little bigger. That's our stem. And freeze it. And now one more thing. And I think we're going to call this an illustration or a sketch. Make the brush a little bit bigger. Now I want a new layer for a reason. So I'm going to give me a new layer. And we're just going to come in here and do this. And give it a different highlight right here. Or a Maybe it's not a highlight. Maybe it's a ripeness factor. All right, freeze it, tap, lower the opacity of that layer. Something like that. All right, that's Photoshop Sketch. Now, in the hands of someone who really knows what they're doing, you can get a lot better work done. But as an amateur, which I admit, I am not someone who's ever had any professional drawing lessons. I have only dabbled in drawing as a kid, as we all did. But this is fun. I mean, if I would have had tools like this when I was a kid, I would have kept going. So something to think about. Let's go to Sketch, or another sketch layer, I should say. I just want to try something here. I want to try this cool brush that I liked earlier, the spray brush. And let's give it a different color. Let's do something like that. Maybe something lighter, hang on. Maybe that. And we're going to pull this layer all the way down to the bottom, behind everything else. And we're on that layer, so we can go ahead and sketch the crap out of the background without screwing up our fruit, and give it a nice kind of sketchy sky. There we go. All right, I'm about to get fancy on you now. Let's go to color. Let's choose white. Let's put some clouds in there. There we go. Some nice fluffy clouds. How about that? Come on, that last part. Come on, you gotta give me props for that. That was kind of cool, right? All right, so anyway, thanks, Winner07. You can create a brush directly from Photoshop Sketch. I love this option. Ooh, I didn't know that. I think you told me that, but I forgot about it. All right, I'm gonna leave that for you to show in the tutorial, Victoria. I have no idea where I would begin to do that. Anyway, I do want to see something here. Now, in the options, you can rotate the canvas. You can add grids. There was one more thing I was going to show. I can't remember if it's in this one or if it's back in Illustrator. If we add grids. Oh, yeah, here it is. Perspective grid. This is kind of cool for people that need to draw in perspective. I know, right? This came from Illustrator or Illustrator Line. So remember I said all the cool features from Illustrator Line came over to Illustrator Draw and Photoshop Sketch. So this is an Illustrator Draw as well. If you need to draw in perspective, you can, here, grid density. There we go. You can put up this grid and now draw everything in perspective if you need to. But, oh, wow, that's cool. But I don't. So we're going to turn that off. All right, so what do you do with this now that you're done? You can go to the share options. It looks very familiar. It looks just like the share options we had in Illustrator Draw. If I am a Creative Cloud member, I get to send it to Photoshop, send it to Illustrator, copy or save it to my Creative Cloud folder. If I'm not, then I tap share one more time at the very bottom, and then I get all my iOS or Android, or in this case, iOS sharing options. Save it to the camera roll, I send it in a message, send it via email, post it to Facebook, so forth and so on. So that is the way to get this out of your device. So for example, if I now say send to Photoshop, that will make a Photoshop compatible file. And it will do the same thing Illustrator Draw did. As a Creative Cloud member, since I have Photoshop CC on the desktop, it will sync it to Creative Cloud, making a layered file, and then back down to my desktop and open it up in Photoshop. So in a few seconds, after it builds everything, it should say sent. But you can also see the importance of why you'd want to work in layers, because especially when I get to Photoshop, if I want to resize something, change something, tweak something without everything being locked to one layer on the background, the layers are very, very, very important in both of these apps. So both Illustrator Draw and Photoshop Sketch, you definitely want to take advantage of the layers. How long is left in the stream? Another 34 minutes. Peter Draws will be up in 34 minutes. $33. All right, sent. So again, it sent it up to the Creative Cloud. Now it'll take a few seconds for my Creative Cloud on the desktop to sync. And once it does, it'll bring up Photoshop on the desktop with this layered file ready to go. But that's Photoshop Sketch, and there it is. So there's my layered PSD file now in Photoshop on the desktop with all the layers, everything that I just did. So for example, I wasn't quite happy with that mark there. So what I would do now in Photoshop is I would go up to my filter menu, I'd go to Gaussian blur, and I would smooth that out a little bit with a blur. Not that much blur. Maybe something, not quite that much, not quite that much, not quite that much, maybe right there. So I just applied a blur to that one layer, which I can again turn on, turn off. All of these are now separate layers in Photoshop for me to do whatever I want to do with. So if I want to pick that one up, oh, wrong one, hang on, undo, still on the wrong one. I was turning them on and off, but I wasn't selecting them. There we go. On that layer, I can pick that one up now, move that around, bring this down. Look, the transparency is still there. The layer stacking is still there. I can do whatever I want to do with that layer. Twist it, flip it, size it, scale it, whatever I want. So that is Photoshop Sketch on iOS, iPad, iPhone. It does take advantage of the Apple Pencil on iPad Pro. If you don't have an iPad Pro, you can use your fingers or any other stylus that's compatible with your device. The images are just as if you created them in Photoshop. Well, you did create them in Photoshop. You created them in Photoshop Sketch. So yeah, there you go. All right, so let's head back over. Let's see what we can cover in 30 minutes. I think I know what I can cover in 30 minutes. So we're here, I'm back in Photoshop Sketch on the iPad. I'm going to close this. So it's saving it to the iPad. Now, by the way, the projects in both Illustrator Draw, Photoshop Sketch, and most of the Adobe Mobile Apps sync as projects. So for example, if I were to go open my iPhone right now and open up Photoshop Sketch or Illustrator Draw, everything I just did would be there as well to continue working on it. So no matter which device you start on, if it's, for example, Illustrator Draw on your Android device, and you want to go finish it on an iPad, your Creative Cloud account would sync the project itself with all of its layers so you can continue working on it on either platform or either device that platform supports. So that's Illustrator Draw, Photoshop Sketch. Let's get out of this and let's see what we have time for in 30 minutes. I hesitate to show something that will take longer than that. So let's talk about, we've done this app before, but let's talk about it again one last time here. We didn't do it in this 3-part series, but let's talk about, we did Spark Post a week ago, last Tuesday. Let's talk about Spark Page. Spark Page is for people that want to create a story with photographs and text and share it for, and of course all of this is free, share it as a custom, meaning you build it, HTML5 web page. So you're basically using Spark Page as an app on iOS or as a website on your desktop. So this is one of those crossover apps where it's not just a mobile app, but it's also a web app as well. So Spark Page, Spark Post, and Spark Video are iOS apps on iPhone and iPad, but they're also websites on your desktop. So for example, if I go to Spark Page here, and again, it's all free to download, and I'm on my iPad, great. I can go create a new Spark Page just by hitting that plus sign in the lower left-hand corner. By the way, this is the inspiration gallery, just like you had inspiration galleries for Illustrator Draw and for Photoshop Sketch. But there's one thing that's, oh, hang on, wrong mouse. There's one thing that's pretty cool about this particular inspiration gallery. This inspiration gallery is probably the best one of all the mobile apps for one simple reason. Because the very first thing in it, that Iceland one is mine. So I'm joking. It is mine, but I'm saying this not because that's why it's the best. So I took a trip to Iceland a few weeks back while I was on sabbatical, and I came back and I wanted to tell my story, not to just my friends and family that would come by the house and see my pictures or see a photo book or see a website with just a photo gallery or Facebook, but I wanted to actually tell the story. I wanted to talk about the trip and talk about what happened on the trip and show pictures and show video and show all of that. So I built the whole thing using Spark Page, and I went back and forth. Some of it I did on my iPad, some of it I did on the web, because it just depended on what device was handier. So I think I started it on the iPad, finished it on the web browser, and tweaked it, like made typo corrections and things on the iPhone, because some of my friend who's a proofreader, she'd send me saying, oh, you have a typo in this sentence, and my phone's right there. I got the text message. I was like, oh, let me pop over to Spark Page and fix it. And so once you post your page, even though it's posted, you can still go back and make corrections to it or changes to it. So for those of you who have never seen a Spark Page before, let me show it to you and then show you how to build one. So here it is. This is a preview of the one that's in the inspiration gallery. This is mine. And it's loading the page. And Spark Page is one continuous web page. So it's one long scrolling page, and the length of it is as long as you make it. So I wish there was a button, honestly, for people that don't know, to say scroll. Because I'm pretty sure some of the people I sent this link to just said, oh, pretty picture of Iceland, and then closed it. They didn't know you had to scroll to see the rest. So here's the text that I put in. There's a hyperlink in the middle of the text. There's a photo grid of photos from the trip, or the initial part of the trip, getting ready for the trip. You can tap on any one of those photos to make the photo larger. Of course, you can go in and then you can start seeing not only the text, or not only the pictures, but you can read the story. And that's why I wanted to do this with Spark Page, because just posting the gallery of the photos wasn't enough. It was something that, in some cases, it's just a better story or better way of or showing your travels, or showing your event, or showing your whatever, when you can give a behind the scenes of what really went on. If I would have just shown you this picture, and then just shown you that picture, and then showed you the finished picture, you wouldn't have known what really went on behind that. Servant 2000, if you go to terrywhite.tv, I've got literally dozens of videos on how to sync your photos to Lightroom on the desktop from Lightroom Mobile. So terrywhite.tv, I've got a whole Lightroom playlist. All right, so anyway, back to Spark Post here, or Spark Page. So again, who's this guy? Like, if I would have just posted that picture, you would have thought, oh, that was one of their friends. And then there's a whole story behind that guy in the middle. So this is why I like Spark Page for this kind of thing. First of all, you get to have big, gorgeous, beautiful, full screen pictures. You get to have, and you can designate whatever picture is going to be in whatever format you want. You get to have scrolling windows over the pictures. You get to include videos from either YouTube, Vimeo, or Adobe Spark Video. So if you wanted to see some of my drone footage here, we can tap on it and it will play it in the Spark page and complete with the music. I've got the music turned down, but you get the idea. So this is some of the video I put together from the trip, and people get to actually see that video right here in Spark Page. All right, thank you. I'm glad you like the pics. And I get to see tops of waterfalls that I otherwise would have never seen. And it continues on, and shows the trip. All right, so how do you build one of these? I'm going to actually close this one. I'm going to put the iPad down because I'm tired of holding it. And I'm going to actually show you how to build one of these from scratch on the computer, because you can. Again, we've been talking about mobile apps for 3 episodes of this stream, but this is one of those where you don't have to do it on your mobile device. If you don't want to, you can. If you have an iOS device, it's great, but what if you didn't? So let's head over to the web browser, and there's Victoria's site again. I'm going to put my iPad down. I'm going to switch off that camera, and let's go in now to the spark.adobe.com website. So if you go to spark.adobe.com and you sign in with your Adobe ID, you will see all of your existing Spark posts, pages, or videos that you've done. And here's one I did before. We were showing how to do this when I first got back. You will see the ones you published, the ones you haven't published, the ones you've shared, the ones you haven't shared. You'll see everything. And you'll notice this particular one has now been viewed 33,000 times. It's by far my most popular Spark page. So in addition to seeing your projects, the inspiration gallery, and the blog, you can click the big yellow plus sign at any point wherever you are to create a new one. And it'll ask you, what do you want to create? Can you mention any major differences between doing it on the mobile devices versus the computer? For Spark Page, I don't think there are any. I know I have a plugin issue with, this is just particular to me, with putting hyperlinks in a Spark page from my version of Chrome because it interferes with one of my extensions, but that's a personal glitch. But I don't think, for a Spark page, I don't think there are any major differences. Of course, the biggest difference I would say is if you do it on your mobile device and you want to use pictures that are on your mobile device, well, they're already there. So here, if I do it on the desktop, I can bring in pictures from my desktop, but I have to go find them. So that would be one difference. But other than that, I think it's feature for feature the same. I know with Spark Post, which is another app we talked about last Tuesday, the big difference from doing it on the web is that I don't think remix was an option. Like, you do one from scratch, but I don't think you could remix one of the designs on the web unless they've already addressed that. But for the most part, they are feature for feature the same, whether you do it on the web browser or do it on your mobile device. It just depends on what's more convenient for getting to all the assets. So in this case, since my assets are in Lightroom, it doesn't matter where I do it from. They're in Lightroom Mobile. So I'm going to go ahead and say create a new Spark page. And then it will ask me the title, subtitle, which is optional, and to put in a background photo. So I can go ahead and just click here and say whatever I want to say. So if I were to do the Iceland one again, it would be I just called it Iceland the first time, but I'm going to say Iceland Adventure. All right, and again, subtitle is optional. If you don't put a subtitle in there, it won't continue to say add a subtitle. It just will leave it off. I'm going to put in my name, Terry White. And one of the things you can do once you start putting in some text and maybe even put in your background photo. Let's put the background photo in first. So I'm going to go ahead and put, you can type or scroll down or whatever. Yeah, that's one way to do it. For your subtitle, you can say scroll down. That would be one way to do it. That's a nice trick, actually. So when I say go grab a background photo, look at my choices. Get one from upload a photo, meaning just get one off my desktop. I'm on my computer, so go grab any JPEG I want off my desktop and go grab one. Or if I want to get one off the web or from a cloud service, I can get one from my Creative Cloud folder, from Lightroom Mobile, from Dropbox, or Google Photos. So my photos are all in Lightroom. And since I'm signed in with my same Adobe ID, it knows my Lightroom synced collections. And so the person that asked, well, is there any major difference from doing it on the web versus doing it on your mobile device? This part I notice is faster on my mobile device. Like this, just having to go from the initially going to the collection and finding the photos and having them show up. That happens faster on my iPad than it does here in the web browser for whatever reason. Now, keep in mind, I have a relatively slow internet connection here. So take that with a grain of salt. For yours, it might pop up instantly. All right, so now I could go in and let's go grab, I'm going to use a different one, not the same one I keep using over and over again. Let's use this one as the background photo. Okay, so I click on that one. That becomes my background photo. Now, see, it says scroll to start writing your story. So why can't this say scroll to start reading the story? But it lets the person know creating it, they have to scroll to do the next thing. Now, before we do the next thing, I just want to point out this themes button in the upper right-hand corner. And think of these as not templates, but themes. Like, how do you want the overall look and feel of your Spark page to look? So I think I'm on crisp by default, which is one of my favorites, by the way, and I'm glad that is the default. But I also like chic. Oh, I see a typo there because this one doesn't keep it in all upper and lowercase. But anyway, once I click one, I can go fix that. I can also do Bruce, and I can do Wesley, and I can do Baldwin. See, that one's all caps, so it doesn't show it. You get the idea. So pick a theme for your overall look and feel that you like. Luca was the original, bit of trivia is there. Luca was the original code name for this. And there's one called Truck, and one called Storybook, and Nightcap. All right, I'm going to stick to crisp. And if I do want to fix that, I'll just make that a lowercase e just in case. All right, so scroll to start telling your story. And notice once you scroll, you get to this spot where you get the same 6 choices every time. What do you want to happen next? Do you want to put in a photo next, text, a button, a video, a photo grid, or a glide show? They're always the same 6 choices of what to put in next. So this is where it's totally up to you to decide what goes next in your story. Most likely it's going to be text. So you could put in a title first, or you can just start putting in a paragraph text. You can copy and paste the text in, so you don't have to sit here writing it in the web browser or on the mobile app. So you can have the story all written out in a separate document, and then just go copy and paste. I spelled adventure wrong. You're right, I did spell adventure wrong. Hang on, let's go fix that. Adventure. All right. And that might be, I was going to say, that might be another reason why you want to do it in another app where you have a good spell checker and grammar checker. Because there were a ton of typos initially in my first Spark page where I had to, again, I had a proofreader go in and kind of scroll through and look through it. And I had to fix like 10 typos in like the first 2 paragraphs because they were just typos that the browser or the app didn't catch. So unless you're going to have someone look at it like I did, you might want to type the main text in another app and copy and paste it in. But you can, again, type the text here all you want. And if you want to type paragraph text, by all means, type paragraph text, or if you want to type your title. So I wanted to say, let's say this is going to be the title. One day I get a call from Scott Kelby. All right, and then if I want to now format that, as soon as I highlight any part of it, then I get all my formatting options. So H1 and H2, they're like, what are those? If you're not used to making web pages, H1 and H2 are really codes for headlines. So headline 1, headline 2. Or you can just make something bold. It's up to you. So for example, if I make this whole thing a headline 1 or a headline 2, then I can also choose to have it left align, centered, or right align. It's totally up to you. Now again, you're not picking a font, you're not doing any of that because all your font and all that's tied into the theme. So if you want it to have a different look for the font, then pick a different theme. You don't get to pick individual fonts. Yeah, it's when you're typing, the thing about typing is that, and this is why people have, even professional writers have everything they write proofread, because I probably wouldn't have seen that adventure. I probably wouldn't have seen that that was a typo, because my eye looks at it and says, it knows what it's supposed to say. But someone who's looking at it letter by letter would obviously see that that was a typo. And that's why, like I said, if it's important text, do it in a word processor or something that has a better spell checker. So in this case, I can keep going. I can say, add more text here, and I can say, hey, you want to Iceland? When do we? And I'm not going to sit here typing the whole thing, but you get the idea. All right. So I'd keep typing, paste, whatever, get all my text in. Now the next thing is, what do you want next? Photo, text, button, video, photo grid, glide show. Let's do one of each, and then we'll probably pretty much be out of time. Let's do another photo. Oh, you know what? No, I take that back. I don't want a photo. Let's cancel this for a second. Cancel. What I want and what I actually used the last time was a photo grid. So a photo grid is where you get to pick multiple photos. I think I did 3 or 4 on that one, the actual real one that I did, but you can do as many as you want. So for example, I'm just going to pick some at random. Let's say I pick this one, and that one, and that one, and the sheep, and the ice, and the photographers, and that one. Okay, I'm just picking some at random and click import. That will bring them all in. And it will bring them in pretty much in the order you clicked on them. So now if you want to change that order, for example, let's say I want the flag to be first. Then I can click move around, forward or backward to move it around. So you don't drag them. You actually just use the arrows to reposition them in the order you want them in. So if I want this one to be before the photographers, then that one goes before the photographers. If I want it to be before the other ice, it goes before the other ice. If I want it to be before the sheep, it goes before the sheep. So you get the idea. That's how you move photos around in the order you want them in. Once they're in the order you want them in, then you just click save, and that will make a photo grid. Now, most things that you add in Spark Page, you will get the option to add a caption for it. So you can add a caption for this whole photo grid if you want. And that caption is separate in a different style than adding text. So think of the caption as just like you see in books or newsprint or whatever. It's a smaller thing, usually in italics underneath something. And then there's paragraphs of text under it. So this caption would be a different style than just me clicking add text. That's a different style. Okay, so you get the idea. Then of course, after that, I added more text. And then after that, let's do the next one. Let's do a glide show. So, but let's just do a single photo first. I'm just going to pick the first one that comes up. Because each time, on the web, it loads them in, so let's pick that one. All right, so we import this spiral staircase. Now I get to choose how I want to look at it. Right now it's inline, which means it'll keep it nice and small like we see it now. If I click on it again, I go fill screen. Means it'll be nice and big, full screen. If I say make it a window, then it's a scrolling window over the top of it. So you get to do all of this. Full width means just fill the width of the browser with that, and that would be good for panoramas. You can replace it or do any one of the other things. So I'm going to say make this a window. All right, so next one, we know what text is. Let's do a glide show. We know what a photo grid is. We'll do a Lightroom once again, and we'll just pick like 3 horizontal photos. Horizontal photos work best for a glide show. Even though you can use whatever you want, but horizontal photos, just take my advice, work best for a glide show. So I'll use 3 of these, import. Again, it lets me put them in whatever order I want. So, you know the trick, just click on it and move it up or down. Once you do, save it, and then that becomes your glide show between the 3 photos. You notice there's a little box on each one. That's for putting captions. And your captions get 4 choices. So your caption can be just text, random, it's not a house, it's actually a garage. Off to the side, see, typo, side of the road. And if we scroll down, I could actually have a caption be a photo, and it will actually go out to go get another photo. Spiral staircase to make a great brush. I don't know, I have to try that. All right, so let's say I want to use that photo as my caption. So now I'm a caption on top of the photo. And these photos don't match, but maybe that's me taking a picture of the photo behind it. And then, of course, if you don't put a caption in, this box goes away in the final presentation. Okay, so video. If I do a video, it's going to just ask me to put in and this might be one of those ones also that doesn't work with my browser. So if my browser locks up, remember I told you there was an extension that locks up the browser when I try and put in a link? I think this is going to be one of those that doesn't work either. So if I do a hyperlink in Chrome or a video link in Chrome, it usually freezes the page, and I have to, like it'll say, come up and kill the page in a minute. And I'd have to go back and see. I've been here before. That's all I know. So we'll say kill the page. And luckily, I don't think I lost anything other than that last thing I just did, because it's constantly saving. So here's the one we just worked on. Let's go back to it. And I won't put any links in this time. But you get the idea. So we got all the way down to here. And you can do a video link or a button or a hyperlink in your text. So those are your 3 ways to put in links. So we pretty much did everything else. I could put in one last thing at the end. Thanks for viewing, if I want to, or whatever else I want to say. And of course, if you want to put in a hyperlink, just highlight it and click that link button, and I'm not going to do. And then you can put in your hyperlink of where you want the word viewing to go. Or look at my website later. All right, so once you're done, you can preview it to see what it would really look like on the web. And so see what I mean? It does not say scroll to view. So let's try that. I want to try that suggestion I saw in the chat there. Let's take out my name and say scroll. Scroll 2 O's, 2 L's. Scroll to view. All right, now let's preview it. Yeah, kind of like that. Scroll to view. All right, and you get the idea. So see where there's a caption, we see a caption with a photo, but where there is no caption, it just takes the box away. And then that would be your story ready to go. If you're happy with it, at this point, let's see, talking of photos, how do we take a film camera negative and use photo to color? All right, that's a whole different thing that's going to take me longer than 5 minutes to explain. ESOP 1978. So I won't get a chance to explain capturing the color negative and then converting it, and so not having a blue tint. So next time. All right. Anyway, last but not least, let's say you're ready to share it. When you click share, you can put in your author credits if you want. You can also pick a category that it's going to go into. If you want to share it onto the gallery, you can. You can put in your a photo of you if you want, and more options. So you can add your own photo credits, and you can say Adobe can feature this on a Spark website, like mine ended up in the inspiration gallery, or not. You don't have to share if you don't want to. And last but not least, create a link means it's now made this ready and available for anyone that has this link to be able to view it, just like I can send out the link to mine. Matter of fact, I'll put the link to mine in the chat. I made a bit.ly for it. All right, so you'll have a link, and you can even embed it on your own website. So it's being hosted by Adobe. This is all free of charge. You don't have to be a Creative Cloud member for this to work. You do have to be a Creative Cloud member if you want to access your Lightroom mobile photos. But other than that, if you just want to upload photos from your device or from your desktop or from anything else, you can. And you can Facebook the link, Twitter the link, email the link, copy the link, share it any other way you want, or embed the whole thing on a web page, like I embedded it on my blog when I got back. And that's Adobe Spark Page. It's awesome. Edit details. Yeah, we did that already. Okay, so close. And in less than 3 minutes, we're going to do Peter Draws is going to be up next. So I hope you enjoyed this. I think this is going to pretty much wrap it up, this 3-part series on Adobe Mobile Apps. I invite you to go check out 2 things. My YouTube channel, which is terrywhite.tv, for apps I didn't get a chance to cover today. And also, if you're really serious and into the mobile apps and you want to learn everything there is to learn about them, I showed her work off earlier. She's here in the chat. She's a moderator. But Victoria Pavlov also has, I don't know, maybe it's under her store. Oh, her books. She's also done a book on the Adobe Mobile Apps, an ebook that you can buy on Amazon. So you can use it in your Kindle or you can use it on your Kindle app, on your desktop, on your iPhone or iPad or Android or whatever. So she's got 2 books out, one for digital painting and one for the Adobe Mobile Apps, where she covers them all. So she covers all of them, including the ones that I didn't get a chance to talk about. So I'll put that link in the chat as well. And I encourage you to go check out her book. And more importantly, even more important than the book is her mobile art. Very talented artist who knows exactly how to make these apps shine. Even when I look at this Illustrator Draw, I'm like, how'd you do that? Like, how'd you get these lines so perfect? Anyway, who's coming up after? Peter Draws is coming up after. And Peter, I think this is his debut view or his debut stream here on our Twitch channel. So Peter Draws, you can certainly comment. I know I saw you in the chat and talk about what you're going to be talking about. And you're going to be up in less than 57 seconds. You're welcome, everyone. Let's see. Did I catch any other questions or miss any other questions here? I think that's all the questions. Thank you, El Murtada. Peter Draws. What are you going to talk about, Peter? All right, while Peter's typing. I want to thank everyone for coming by. On Friday, we're going to be doing something totally different. Probably maybe something design-oriented. Maybe some Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign together. And I still want to talk, I still have to do a stream on contributing to Adobe Stock using the new Adobe Stock portal. So maybe we'll do those combined or we'll do them separate. I don't know. So join me Friday, same time, same channel. And Peter, go ahead.